New York Times has reported that Trump and his campaign are considering not participating in any of the 2020 general election debates because Trump doesn't trust the Commission on Presidential Debates, and his advisors have said Trump is less concerned with whoever he would be debating and more concerned with the moderators. There was three presidential debates that took place during the 2016 election cycle, and Hillary Clinton received a bump in the polls after each one of those debates. And part of Trump's issue with the debates last time around was that he thought he was given, I think, a faulty microphone, and there were some kind of wonky things going on with his microphone that he thought, wasn't an accident, that they were trying to, kind of trying to handicap, his chances during those debates. And he's also accused moderators in the past of being biased, both Anderson Cooper and Martha Raddatz. Additionally, another moderator, Lester Holt, he accused of being a Democrat, even though he is a registered Republican. And, you know, politically, it probably makes sense for Trump to not participate in these debates because whoever his opponent was would be able to, call him out on his policies and platform. But I also think it would, definitely the political nature of it, if it would make sense for him to participate or not, would depend on who he's facing. I think if he was facing, Joe Biden, Trump could go after him, and the kind of the scene corruption between Biden and his son and what was going on with Ukraine. So if Biden tried to bring up that stuff, then obviously Trump could just throw it back in his face. I think he would do reasonably well against Elizabeth Warren. I think the one candidate who would do really well against Trump in the debates would be Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has some very clearly, articulated positions, and he's, never wavered from those. And, Bernie could, like, so, Mr. Trump, why do you not support Medicare for all? Why are you okay with 30 to 45,000 Americans dying each year because they don't have access to health care? Why are you okay with 500,000 Americans going bankrupt each year due to medical bankruptcy? Why do you not support a Green New Deal when our, world is falling apart due to climate change? Why have you not got our troops out of Iraq or Afghanistan? Why did you, continue to add more and more money to our military budget when you're not out there advocating for, free college? So I think Bernie would do really well in the debates against Donald Trump. I think all of the other candidates would not fare as well. So I think, his advisors were saying they're less concerned about who he's facing and more concerned about the moderators. And, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if he was facing Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg or even Elizabeth Warren to a lesser extent, I think Trump would be able to do fairly well against the kind of Democratic establishment candidates. But I think Bernie would pose a real serious challenge to him. So I'm postulating that if Bernie Sanders is the Democratic candidate, which I really hope he is, then I think Trump would probably do everything he can to get out of those three debates, or maybe just, saying he's not going to participate in any of them and then end up only, doing one of them, because he saw, during the 2016 election cycle against Hillary Clinton that, she got a boost in the polls after each debate. So he's, able to see that they benefited her. And I think the effect would even be, even greater if he was facing somebody like, Bernie Sanders, who, isn't corrupt, isn't part of the Democratic, establishment. He's willing to, push back for, different, policies and, things like that. And additionally, it's, like I said, depending on the candidate, it probably does make sense politically for, excuse me, for Trump to not participate in these debates because more than likely whatever candidate he's facing could, get a slight bump in the polls, especially if it's, Bernie Sanders, because his message resonates with, huge, percentage of Americans, because most people do support Medicare for all, free college, legalizing marijuana, higher taxes on Wall Street and the wealthy, supporting things around climate change, stuff like that, things that Trump has, kind of actively campaigned against, or, his administration has, or the different, kind of executive functions, stuff like that. So, politically, like I said, it makes sense for Trump to not engage in the debates, you know, but it also, shows to the American people like, wow, this, our president isn't willing to go out there and engage with the Democratic nominee for president. And then, so I don't know. To me, that just speaks of like, well, he's just trying to hide from the public or the other candidate because he isn't able to really defend, the things that his administration has done and continues to advocate for, and that candidate would be able to call him out on that. And then, of course, Trump would say, "Well, these moderators are biased. They're going to mess with my microphone again. This, that, and the other." When in fact we can see through the Democratic debates that the moderators are going to push back much harder against somebody who is progressive, who is a social democrat, who's advocating for these policies that go against the establishment and the status quo, and that's Bernie Sanders. And we've seen so many examples of that during the Democratic debates, and I think that would probably happen again during the presidential debates if Bernie was the nominee, because a lot of people in the establishment would rather have 4 more years of Trump than a Bernie administration, because he is a direct threat to the wealthy, entrenched corporate oligarch class, and Trump, for all of his racism and xenophobia and misogyny, he's definitely very much entwined and in support of the oligarch class. So that's why, that class of people would rather have Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders as president. So be very interesting to see going forward if he does, in fact, opt out of these debates. I think the optics of it are pretty bad, but in the end, it might benefit him politically from not, going out there and having to defend all of the horrible kind of policy positions and things that the Trump administration has done. So just my 2 cents. I would love to hear yours in the comment sections down below. Also, once I get to 50 subscribers, I will take a polar plunge in a local river around here, and it's currently wintertime, so it would be quite chilly, and I will document it on the GoPro. Peace and much love.